Welcome to the Rise to Thrive podcast. Rise to Thrive is your real talk resource to elevate your life and business through growth, wellness, and manifestation. With your co-host, Linda Tate, financial advisor turned life and wealth strategist, founder of Leela Life, and self-named Nordic shaman, and Amelia Travis, yoga teacher turned multi-six-figure business coach, founder of Stoked Yogi, and spiritual warrior. We're here to help you level up and create the life you imagine, sharing inspiration and strategy to elevate vibes and consciousness so you can rise to your best self and thrive as your best self. Tune in weekly to Thrive Daily. Tuning in now. It's 2019, and your investments can be in alignment with the world you are creating. Change Finance is not your normal Wall Street company. They are woman-owned and offer investments that change the world. Go to change-finance.net/RTT to learn more and start investing today. Change Finance is a registered investment advisor, and this is not an offer to buy or sell any product. Welcome to Rise to Thrive with your hosts, Linda Tate and Amelia Travis. Today we have Britta Rael as an educator, artist, and entrepreneur with 10 years of teaching experience in yoga, acrobatics, sports, and healing arts, and just a beloved luminous soul sister we are so happy to have on today's episode. So we're hoping to share some amazing insights from her life to yours. And welcome to the show, Britta.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
And hi, Amelia.
Yeah, so excited that you're here, B. You guys, I've known Britta for a number of years now. I can't quite count them, over 5, I think. And she's one of, quite a few. And she's one of those life connections who came by like perfect synchronicity, serendipity. She was teaching a yoga class. I went and took her yoga class here in San Diego a few years ago, and just was so deeply moved by her presence. She's one of those teachers that you get into her class and you just like feel all the feels. I think it was a restorative class too. I don't remember exactly, but I just remember that after the class, I came out and you were in the lobby of the yoga studio doing some Thai massage or some acro yoga with someone. And I was like, had never seen that before. And I was so fascinated. And I'm a very nosy person. So I just kind of like sidled up and was like, hi, who, like, what are you doing? Like, I loved your class, and like, what is this? And how can I get some of that? Right. And you were so gracious to me. Thank you to this day for being so sweet to me. She just was like, yeah, it's acro yoga and this is what I do. And then I asked her if she would come and guest teach for a SUP yoga teacher training, and she did. And it blossomed into a lifetime friendship.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
And I met you, Britta. We got to have our play date, the 3 of us. I still remember that. And like when I think of ultimate playtime, I think of that day. I'm doing like beach acro. Do you remember that, both of you?
Oh yeah, in Coronado.
Yeah, it was so
I remember.
fun.
Yeah. So I have to add a little bit to your resume here. We introduced you as an educator, artist, and entrepreneur specializing in yoga, acrobatics, sports, and healing arts. And I think that's a pretty good comprehensive resume, but you're also a brilliant writer and have been an editor of a few publications in the past. And you're also a singer and songwriter. So you really are like the definition of a Renaissance woman.
And thank you. I will attribute to my mother, may she rest in peace forever and ever. She was going to name me Renaissance.
Wow.
And I was unnamed for, I think, the first 2 weeks of my life. And I'm still unsure of where the name Britta comes from. But maybe it's just genetics. I don't know.
It's a little more digestible than Renaissance, though. I guess we could call you Ren.
Rennie.
Yeah.
I think it would have not been a great fit. But thank you. Yes, I have a lot of things that I'm passionate about and somehow talented enough to get by doing. And now I'm focusing on the things that I can apply myself to the most. So hence the shortened resume.
Yeah, and tell us please a little bit about what's lighting your heart on fire the most these days.
Yeah. Recently, I purchased some land, and I live on that land with my husband in our mobile vehicle. And it's just been an amazing place to spend all of our days. Like, we're completely immersed in the wild, in the open skies in the desert. And I guess what has been a blessing for my experience right now is that I've had time and space and physical openness to really drop into my meditation practice and really have the wherewithal and like the conscious space to apply a lot of my previous experience teaching over the last like specifically 5 or 6 years, and kind of have the time to distill that into what I've created now, which is like a teaching mentorship program. So that's really what I'm like lit up by, is nurturing myself through meditation, hopefully nurturing others to do the same, and spending a lot of time just putting out like mentorship capability for other teachers in all of those fields: yoga, fitness, sports, healing arts, Thai massage, acro yoga, you name it.
It's like the coach or mentor you wished you would have had.
100%. And I did have several amazing mentors and coaches over the 10 years that I've been teaching. But yeah, if I could like put it in one person, this is what I'm trying to offer for sure.
Awesome. Could you share about your meditation practice?
Yeah. Wow. I started meditating, I mean, probably as a zygote. I've been, and again, I attribute this kind of like to how I was raised in a very religious home, like as a conservative Christian family. Meditation was synonymous to prayer for me for a long, many years. I went to a private Nazarene school in San Diego, Point Loma. And really, like, I would say, like, my time in church and in prayer, and especially in worship, felt like meditation, or it felt like meditation feels now to me, which is in a very different context. But in about 2009, I took my first Kriya Yoga course. Kriya Yoga meaning inner action, or Kriya is a very specific recipe for breath work, pranayama, meditation, different postures, gestures with the hands, mudras. It's kind of like a science in itself. And that's really where my meditation practice spurred from. It's hard to describe because it's like really simple. I sit in a very specific posture. I close my eyes. There are several reminders or mantras or kind of principles that I just try to silently recall. And then I allow the experience to like be whatever it is. I don't generally follow a recorded meditation, or like I don't use apps, like technological meditation apps, which are cool. I've never been one to like engage technologically in that way with meditation. So for me, it just looks like sitting and being really quiet and allowing whatever comes up to come up. Certainly comes with challenges. The mind is always on. For me, meditation happens best in the morning, first thing when I wake up, after like, stepping outside into my beautiful property and like absorbing the sunrise. But yeah, it's a nurturing, like quiet, simple practice that I try to do every day, sometimes twice a day.
That's like the easiest. I just want to meditate right now.
I gotta interject here. So for a lot of people, meditation makes them, eye roll a little bit because they just aren't, either they're not sure how to do it or they're not sure what all the fuss is about. And as someone who was a resistant or reluctant meditator for years, by which I mean a non-meditator who eye rolled at the idea of meditation, and it's just like, yeah, that's this thing they forced me to do at the ashram, but left to my own devices, like I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. My perspective is different now, but what I want to know is, why do you think meditation is so great? like, what's the point?
Totally. And I will preface this, like, there is no point. And that's the hardest thing for someone like you, I would imagine, to digest. There isn't necessarily a point. Once you can start to let go of that, then we can have an even more robust conversation. But I think meditation has definitely become more and more mainstream recently, just due to trends in health and like mental health and popularity of self-help. Productivity has been a huge buzzword in my community or in industry, that meditation specifically has been, proven to increase your productivity.
Actual healing.
And actual healing. But that said, like, you're right. I think most people don't really know what it is or what it is about. I think that meditation is really like a state of being more than anything that we do. And a lot of the times when people ask me about meditation as a practice, they are probably thinking about what I described earlier. Sitting, like a monk would sit in the mountains in the Himalayas, very quiet and reserved and somber and, focused and highly spiritual. And that can certainly be what meditation looks like or feels like, but it can be everything. It can be simply like, I'm cooking dinner and I'm really hyper focused on the feel of the knife slicing through my vegetables that I'm chopping, or the moment that I'm experiencing, and like just being really present and connected with everything, every sensation in and without around me. That can also be meditation. And I think to answer your question, Amelia, of like, why is it so great? It's a natural state for us. Like when you're on a stand-up paddleboard, or when you're in the middle of an awesome yoga class, or you're just taking a walk through the nature, that's meditation. You're highly relaxed, you're highly focused, you're proprioceptive, you're aware of a lot of things simultaneously, and and you're not aware of anything. Does that make sense?
Yes. And my question was a little bit more of like a devil's advocate question for those who are still in the mindset that I was in for many years, which was meditation is something that you do. It's another thing to put on my to-do list, and I'm bad at it, right? This was the perception. I'm bad at it because I thought that being good at meditation meant that my mind has to be silent and that there won't be any thoughts. And anytime a thought intruded, I was like, oh, failed, you failed again, failed, worst meditator ever, right? And so what has recently shifted in my life, I set an intention in the spring of last year for my 33rd trip around the sun. My intention word was integration. And it's really interesting because that has a lot of different levels. But one of the levels of integration for me is integrating all of the knowledge and information that's been made available to me, whether by like direct teaching or study or impartation. And so part of that is the meditation practice. And part of what resulted was I decided to just start sitting without any expectation, without any plan. And it also was something that I was able to start gifting myself, because being a mom of a 2-year-old and, being self-employed and spending most of my days like this in front of the computer, it was like, this is 10, 15, 20 minutes that I can gift myself in the morning where I'm not doing anything. I can just sit, and there doesn't have to be a goal. There doesn't have to be anything. And it was really interesting because for me, like, I think a word that was able to activate the integration was just surrender. Like, stop trying to meditate and just sit down and breathe. And that's it. But I think when I say, why is meditation so great? What I mean is, so I heard improved productivity, and I heard healing, and I heard the presence, and I heard expanded sensory awareness, being aware of many different things simultaneously whilst at the same time being aware of nothing at all. I think I'm curious if you can point to in your own life how you feel differently when you're in a consistent meditation practice versus when you're not, if you can speak to that difference.
I'll point out, you said one word that I really like, which is integrated. When I'm consistently meditating, which can look very different, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 30 minutes, it could be an hour, but as long as I'm sitting with myself with that little gift moment every day, I experience my life as if I had a really amazing night of sleep. I feel refreshed. I feel integrated in the sense that my mind and my body and my intentions and kind of like all of the systems that I am seem to be a little bit more connected and seem to be firing at the same time. And there's less of a disconnect between all of the ways I perceive myself, my to-dos, my life, everything when I'm sitting normally. And I think one of the main reasons is that when we allow ourselves to sit, and I'm just doing this with my eyes closed right now, when we allow ourselves to sit with eyes closed, to follow our breath, and to actually, like you said, simply surrender to whatever this moment has for us, it's like the body's natural way of kind of scrubbing all of the crap out, for lack of a better term. It's kind of like an offloading period. And if I practice that offloading period for a longer duration of the day, but especially for just more consistency day to day, I have less to offload. And it's easier for me to then access that state of serenity or calm or just really clarity in my mind and in my body. And I think that's what a lot of people would be attracted to meditation for, and why it would benefit them, because we're all running around like freaking crazy people in this modern day and age. And when we afford ourselves time and space to simply sit and download and just allow everything to kind of settle, like imagine if you had a snow globe and you disturb the snow globe like really aggressively and it's just a blizzard. Meditation is kind of like, oh, you let all the snow just kind of settle.
I'm like picturing too, like you brush your teeth twice a day, and it's like meditation, just like brushing your teeth every day and getting rid of
God, can you imagine if you never brushed your teeth? Oh, it's so gross. It's like when you don't scrape your tongue for a while. And if you guys are not tongue scrapers, like, I'm sorry, because this is about to get real gross. But like before you get into there's an Ayurvedic practice, if you're not familiar, it's also just good dental hygiene period of scraping your tongue. Now, a lot of people brush their tongue because your dentist will tell you to do that, but you actually get, a thick layer of buildup on your tongue. And so when you first start the practice of tongue scraping, you take this little metal rod that's shaped like a horseshoe and you scrape your tongue, and a thick layer of like tongue sediment comes off of your tongue, and it's disgusting and it smells bad. And you're like, this is why I've had bad breath for the last 10 years. And so it's gross, right? But then you get in the habit of scraping your tongue, and every day it's like not that gross. But if you don't scrape your tongue for a couple days,
there's a whole lot in there.
Oh my gosh, it's so gross. And now you guys, I'm going to think about that. Like every time I don't meditate, it's going to be akin to me like not scraping my tongue. And I'm going to be like, your brain is got really bad breath right now. Like you need to scrape your brain.
Brush your teeth, scrub your tongue, and meditate.
That's the app that we'll design. It's called Scrape Your Mind.
Oh, I'm not sure that's going to be a hot seller.
So if you had advice for someone that is just they're like, I've tried, and they actually have tried, right? I've tried. What would you say to them to give it like one more shot to meditate? A tip?
I mean, for people that have experience already with some element of meditation, I would say it's the same approach as I work with like someone that is having trouble consistently going to the gym or exercising or wants to lose weight or something. Like, I want to make it easier for them to do the thing that they're trying to do and get joy out of it, and make it something that's a positive experience that's easy to adhere to. Because if it's not, there's no purpose. Like Amelia, you're like, why would people do this if it's a struggle? So finding like any place that you can that's comfortable in your home or in your work environment, like maybe for people that are practicing sitting meditation, have a designated meditation pillow and like do it, like personalize it so that when you do decide to show up for that gifted moment with yourself, it's really pleasant. Like make your body really comfortable. Lay down if you need to lay down. I teach that all the time. Like if sitting is really uncomfortable and that's what keeps you kind of processing in your mind, lay the heck down. Like grab a pillow, turn it into like a sleeping meditation.
That was my first practice of meditation. I was like, I know I can do this. And I set a 1-minute timer and I laid, and that was like me giving it a go.
Yeah. And also like I've had a lot of success in my own practice and with a lot of my friends who sometimes I like help encourage them in their meditation. You can go take a class or like do something that gives you a little bit of a social connection, maybe like something that gives you more of a guided experience if it's really hard for you to just sit and be quiet and face, you know, the monkey mind. That way it can anchor you into a habit or a practice consciously that gives you like the supportive environment that you need. Make it fun. Like there's thousands of resources out there, whether it's an audiobook or a podcast or like a downloaded meditation, or even just, I don't know, like take yourself out for a walk or go do and be in the place that you are feeling the most happy or supported or comfortable, and let that be the source of like your practice.
I heard a really cool testimony, and I think it was Katie Brower, but I could be wrong. It was one of the women who I respect and admire, who's also a surfer, and she's a yogini, and she was talking about her difficulty with meditation. And maybe it wasn't Katie Brower. It was, anyway, the point was, what she said was she really, really, really struggled with meditation for years and years, until she sat with a meditation teacher who asked her, you know, some questions about when she had experienced anything like the flow state. And she said it was when I'm surfing. And it would, like, they asked clarifying questions. Well, what part of surfing? And it was like, when do you feel the most surrender and presence? And it was when she was duck diving, of all things. And I don't know. And if you guys don't surf, duck diving is a term where as you're paddling out into oncoming waves, you need to get underneath a big wave. And so you push the nose of your board underneath and you follow it with your knee and your body. And you, when you time it right, you go down underneath the wave and you pop up on the other side. But it has a rhythm to it. You're approaching the wave, you're paddling, you take a big breath in, you exhale, you push the nose down, you push down with your knee, and you have this moment of weightlessness and surrender where you're either going to make it to the other side of the wave or you're not. And then you pop up on the other side. And so this meditation teacher suggested to her, okay, that's your meditation. And it was like, well, what does that mean? And it was like, in your mind, you'll just replay, inhale, I'm heading towards the wave. Exhale, I'm pushing the nose under and I'm diving under, and I come back up and I inhale and oh, there's another wave coming, and I exhale and I dive back under. And so that became her meditation pattern. And it was like, she said, this was totally revolutionary for me. And that was how I began being able to meditate, was through a visualization that was like related to something that she could have a somatic experience of, like she knew what that felt like in her body. And I thought that was so interesting, because for all the people who have resistance to, like you said, Britta, sitting and facing the monkey mind and feeling like they're a failure because, you know, they're just experiencing like these looping thoughts and the very busy active surface and the blizzardy snow globe. And they're like, this is terrible.
Meditation isn't happening.
Yeah. Well, and there's also this, I think there's this, perception of what a meditative state will be like, because people hear about the Turiya state, they hear about the final states of meditation, which is the state of no mind, which is the state of like disappearing, and you have no thoughts, but you're completely aware. And they think like, oh, I'm going to meditate today for the first time, and I'm going to achieve this deep state of altered consciousness. And it's like, that is an unrealistic and unhelpful expectation, and one that really, I think, prevents a lot of people from finding their own process of progressive states of concentration leading to meditative states, So I like that you said we could go for a walk. And I think if you're like, well, how does that work? Like go on a walk without your phone and pay attention to how it feels every time your foot touches the pavement, or notice what you smell, or notice what sounds are around you. Like allow, tantric meditation is, tantra is the practice of expanding your sensory awareness and allowing all of the sensations and perceptions to be very present, instead of trying to kind of negate them or transcend them, or move into quiet. So I love that you're sharing that there are other ways. You don't have to just sit in silence. You can chop vegetables.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a really good point, and Linda, feel free to jump in here, but people, not just about meditation, but people have, I think, expectations about yoga, about weight training, about a yoga retreat, about a business event. Like, people have expectations that they're going to have a big experience, oh, I'm going to sit and meditate, and like everything is going to just settle into place, and my whole life is going to just change in one moment. Like, that's the expectation, that you're going to have a big experience. And while meditation and meditative states and other practices can certainly cause or create or allow for those big experiences to occur, I think what is more beneficial and more powerful is the small, consistent steps towards the direction of big experiences, which through meditation could look like, every day I've spent 5 minutes watching my breath, allowing the mind to flow, looking at the thoughts, absorbing my sensations. And wow, I've done that for a month. And now a month in, I've had a 30-minute unexpected meditation with really cool sensory perceptions, or some really big message that came through, or whatever it is. But I think we do ourselves the disservice of creating a big expectation that like something powerful is going to happen every time that we step into the yoga room, or every time that we pick up the weights, or every time that we sit for meditation, instead of focusing on like the value of just constantly having to engage in repetition, because repetition is where things start to become magic.
And that's repetition is the mother of all skill. And I think it's repetition that could be the part that is maybe the hardest.
The hardest, and also the most beneficial. I mean, if you've ever spent time like in a kirtan environment, kirtan is like the song and the chanting worship side of yoga. It's called bhakti yoga. It's a devotional chant, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a musical song, like very lyrical and melodic. Kirtan is often repetition of the different names or qualities of all the gods and goddesses of the universe. And the more that we are in that state of repetition, whether you're saying something out loud or you're doing something again and again, it automatically can put our minds and our bodies in that flow state, like you talked about, Amelia, which is such a great image of that person duck diving under the wave. The more that you just go with the wave up and down or in and out, the more that you repeat this one phrase or you sit every day, it creates a certain opening in your body, in your system, in your energy for other experiences to happen, for you to be integrated into the greater experience of what's going on in your life. So I think that's an aspect that I would say it's hard, and it's good that it's hard because that's where you're going to grow.
And I think your point about repetition is also something that we can leverage for our own success or for our own positive experience with meditation. So for me, one thing that helped besides the surrender and recognizing it as a gift was creating a routine. So like you said, Britta, you can have a special place and a special cushion. For me, even beyond that, it was like having a certain scent can help trigger. And so my very first yoga teachers ever always burned Nag Champa incense. And like that scent for me, it smells like the ashram. It smells like a place where I have consistently meditated. It smells like that teacher. And even though I actually don't love Nag Champa, it's not like my most just favorite smell. Like I wouldn't burn it in my house just for kicks, but I know that the scent and our olfactory senses are so powerful. The scent drops me right into a state where I'm more receptive, it tells my brain, hey, we're getting ready to meditate. So having that incense in my office, having my cushion, blanket, extra blanket below me, like you said, getting really extra comfy and cozy. And then also just commanding the mind. So like when you said you have a few things that you tell yourself or like reminders that you give yourself as you're dropping in, the command or the request or the like agreement with your own mind, like, hey, we're going to sit for 5 minutes and we're going to sit for 5 minutes and that's it. Like, it's just telling yourself this is what's going to happen. They sound like little things, but you can create your whole own set of environmental cues that will help become part of your repetition, where even if you're doing those things, you're lighting your incense or your Palo Santo, you're getting your cushion ready, you're dimming the lights, maybe it's already dark because you just woke up, you sit down, you tell the mind, we're going to be quiet for 5 minutes. And then you just start to notice the breath. And if that's always the pattern and you repeat those things, even if the first, like you said, 30 times, the first 30 days that you're doing this consistently with only the goal of a 5-minute sit, it's not feeling like there's any fireworks or anything, but there will come a day where something shifts and you do have an experience that feels more profound or deeper or enlightening somehow. And it's also just like this beautiful way of like creating a sacred and an intentional space that will allow that to happen instead of what for me, like it felt like for years meditation was like a punishment. Like it was like time to go sit and meditate again. And so like turning it into not punishment. Yeah.
Ritual is something that I think is getting a lot more reintegrated into our society, but ritual is such a powerful aspect of like human experience. And I teach the same thing or the same concepts when I'm teaching someone how to do a handstand. And you can draw the parallel of meditation. Set up the same time, set up the same place, set up the same smell, set up the same sounds or whatever. If I'm going to teach someone to do a handstand, which is really freaking hard to do, especially if you're new to it, set up your alignment the same way. Make sure that each time that you get into position is the same, and it's a ritual that you perform with yourself so that you put yourself in that state of awareness, of preparation. Your body is kind of anticipating what your mind is doing. And then soon enough, you're like popping up into a handstand, even though you've really not done a lot. You've done a little over time.
That's interesting because I think when it gets to a point where the ritual's not needed, you're just able to snap in. And that's because I think too, sometimes it can be like, and I don't know if Amelia, you've ever felt this where you're like, and I've got to like set up this and this and this. And that's where it starts to, for me, feel almost like a lot to do versus just sitting and starting. But at times where the ritual helped me so much, there are times where it's like, you just do it. And then like, there's times that you need to set yourself up in the headstand in that certain way. And then there's times that you just do it. And like allowing that to be the foundation can be critical to like keep it flowing.
Right.
I love that. So Britta, sorry, go ahead, Amelia.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, the external environmental cues helped me a lot to develop a home practice, but the internal repetition cues, those are available anywhere and everywhere. So sitting down and saying, we're going to meditate now, and brain, you're going to be quiet for the next 5 minutes, and then noticing the breath. And then, the way that I was like trained or learned to meditate was from Shivananda, and it is very specific. And so it's like, after you command the mind to be quiet, then you start to focus on the breath, keeping, even slow breaths. And then after that, eventually a focal point, either the heart center or the center between the eyebrows. And then after maintaining the focus there for a few minutes, then adding in a mantra. And that specific set of internal cues, like, I'm still, and maybe I'm totally going to own being like a baby meditator. Like, I'm still like, I'm in the infancy of my like committed practice. And so it's so helpful for me to have like steps that I know lead me there, but those ones are available everywhere. They don't necessarily have to have like the setup. And so I think once you figure out a way that does work for you, you can like drop in anywhere.
No, I just say that because there was times where I would be like, well, I can't go home, but I could be like in my car, I could be anywhere. And to let go of like almost, I guess, kind of an expectation that it could only be there, and like let myself, that became even more the gift to be in that sacred space. And when I couldn't, I could be anywhere, and like allowing that permission to do either way.
Right. But you have to have the foundation to start, and then you experience that freedom that you can access that state or that practice more and more and anywhere. Very similar to other things, but we'll keep it about meditation.
Yeah. And Britta, well, I'd love to hear how you've transitioned with, especially the past 6 months, like you seem to be really tapped into your meditation practice, and how that's paralleling with the work you're doing now with your business, how that's gone hand in hand.
Yeah, for sure. My dearest friend and mentor, I will consider him, his name's Kadri. He always says to me, he's like, do you need to fix anything in your life? Meditate. You need to change something in your life? Meditate. Like, pretty much the answer to many questions is meditate, because it allows us, like we talked about earlier, to kind of like drop in and clear the bushes and just see a little bit more coherently what's going on. So I've tried my best to nurture my practice here in this stage right now, specifically because I've been wanting to address this new aspect or expanded aspect of my teaching practice and of my business. And my husband and I are just in this like really cool stage of transition where we've left, in many cases, like our regularity in our jobs and our community, and we're kind of in this frontier or like new enterprise. So for me, meditation is the thing that creates the most consistency and anchoring. And it's provided so much cushion or bolstering for my creative process and for my like application into this new undertaking as a mentor. Like, if I haven't been meditating, I get freaking crazy. Like, if I don't wake up and have that time in the morning to get connected and grounded and focused, like, I don't get anything done. And I have so much to get done, even though I'm living outside of like the normal, work environment. So I guess I kind of want to address this concept. We talked about this earlier, that meditation is hard, or that things that are hard can generally be really good for us. And I think that's where I'm finding the most growth, and I'll call it success, as a result of my meditation, is because it's freaking hard. Like, there are definitely days that I don't do it. Because like you, Amelia, I resist it. Like, sometimes I just wake up and I'm like, oh, I missed the window. Like, I'm 15 minutes past the time that I said I was going to meditate, so I'm just not going to meditate. And other things like creative disciplines, there's a huge learning curve into meditation. A certain amount of like grit and friction are required to just get us going, or even to maintain or progress in that practice. And for me, it has been like kind of grinding my teeth and saying, no, Britta, I committed to these goals or these outcomes that I want to experience, or I committed to this practice. And even though it's too late, or I'm too busy, or I've already had a cup of coffee and I can't actually focus, I'm going to sit and do it, because the process is where the most value lies. And I think generally, myself included, people nowadays are pretty impatient. That's definitely me. We're pretty stimulus dependent, like, and overstimulated in every way. And we live very comfortably, generally speaking. This is like to our demographic, like life is pretty comfortable. We have a lot of amenities. And that comfort or that accessibility and that sense of urgency makes us really soft and reactive. And so for me, meditation is one more thing that's a little bit hard. It requires time and dedication, and it doesn't always provide immediate gratification, but the merit has such high value, because the process of discovering or uncovering certain things about myself that happens in meditation, it might be subconscious, it might be conscious, are where I see and experience the most growth in myself. It's through like those moments of grit and friction where I'm like, this, like, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to face that issue today, but I'm going to again and again. What's the quote from Yvonne, the Patagonia founder? He's like talking about climbing a mountain and people that like don't climb the mountain, they just take a helicopter up the mountain. He's like, if you were an asshole before you started the climb and you don't go through the process and you just like get the elevator to the mountain, like you're still going to be an asshole at the top of the mountain, like cause danger. And that's what this practice is for me. I don't have anything that's really specific to mention, except for I'm way more connected and clear and committed and like calm after and during my meditation, and I apply that to all the stuff that I'm doing now in life.
Make it sound so good. I'm like, okay, podcast over. Gotta go meditate now. Never mind that I'm 5 cups of coffee in.
And this is maybe a quick plug. I had a meditation group this past month. So I had 10 people who wanted support for meditation. I offered them to be in a Facebook group, and I just recorded things that I wanted to speak to. I have some guided meditations. I will not go ahead and say they're amazing. They're just kind of off the cuff from my heart. But if you're interested in using those, they're generally like under 10 minutes long. That's on my SoundCloud account. You're more than welcome to use them or share them or whatever. They're great.
And what's your SoundCloud?
It is just SoundCloud. I think it's Britta Rael is my username or URL.
We'll drop it in the show notes for you guys.
Britta Rael, yeah.
The beginner meditators easy step into meditation with Britta.
Totally.
So can you tell us about some of the programs you're working on right now?
Yes, this is like also a huge bow of gratitude to you, Linda, and to you, Amelia. Like, you guys both inspire me a lot with what you do in your businesses and in your lives. But I remember walking on the beach with Linda recently in Fort Lauderdale, and this was kind of at the onset of working with a business mentor who helped me kind of identify, like, more specifically who I want to work with or impact the most as a teacher. And right now for me, that's other teachers. And I remember that Linda and I are taking this awesome walk for what seemed like hours on the beach. And I was just like in a download moment of like getting really excited about how to develop a curriculum that would basically distill all of my expertise and experience over the last like 10 years of teaching yoga and acrobatics and Thai massage locally in communities and also at festivals and conferences and like bigger events, how to distill that information like for other people to have a little bit more of a quick initiation into that like success or experience. I don't just necessarily define myself as like highly successful yoga teacher.
I think you should.
Yeah, part of that is like, well, each person can define success very differently. And so I try not to say like X, Y, and Z means that you're successful. For me, I've been really fortunate to have incredible opportunities and access to teach in a lot of different places all around the world. And I've gained a lot of expertise just by my own mistakes and, grit and grind. So what I'm offering now is a one-on-one experience for people to work with me in a mentorship relationship and be able to go through like, how are you, what do you need to define yourself as successful as a yoga teacher or a movement teacher? And how do you think you're going to get there? And what can I do to kind of offer my insight and experience to help shape you and empower you and give you some of the tools to not only teach with better aptitude, but to teach from a place of service and to be like more professional about how people do things. That's kind of like this.
I have to interrupt you, Britta, because where you're being very modest, I can't allow that to just carry the way it was just stated. So I'm going to go ahead and put you on blast a little bit. Britta has been on the teaching circuit for the Wanderlust Festival for a number of years now. She's one of their primary acro yoga teachers. She's also on the acro yoga teaching team, meaning she trains people who want to become certified in acro. She's worked alongside me in teaching acro yoga to our alumni for Stoked Yogi teacher trainings. She has worked at Google. She taught at Google for a number of years, which I think is pretty impressive. Goodness, if you're going to teach corporate yoga, I'm pretty sure there's not a bigger, fancier client that you could have, which isn't even to mention like her roster of private clients, which obviously we're not going to name names, but she's been successful in gaining private clients at, a higher investment because she's providing a higher value. And really overall, she can have her own definition of success, but in like the societal standards of success of what it would mean to be successful as a yoga teacher, teaching for Wanderlust and Yoga Journal and for training teachers at a high level, she has done all of those things and is continuing to do all of those things. So if you, as a yoga teacher or a movement professional, want to understand how to break into those areas or how to become like she said, a certain level of professionalism where people take you seriously enough and you take yourself seriously enough that they're willing to pay you more money and to give you more trust to, teach teachers or to, if you want to be fancy, you should go work with Britta Rael because she's amazing. But I couldn't let that fly with like you saying you wouldn't call yourself a very successful teacher because I'm like, I would. And yeah, you're badass.
Britta, what do you think's holding like newer yoga teachers or movement teachers and professionals back from taking their careers to the next level?
Man, I'm going to split this into two answers. And one is kind of addressing like things that I see new teachers doing that don't necessarily serve them just in their development as teachers. And then the second would be things that I think as a whole, many teachers, I'll kind of say more specifically yoga teachers, don't do to push themselves in a more professional circuit. So as far as new teachers go, man, the best thing that I can recommend new teachers do is focus on teaching. Like even if you want to be at some point an Instagram famous or internationally celebrated movement teacher of, X, Y, and Z specialty, you have to be able to, like we talked about earlier, set a foundation that you can teach really good classes that have extremely like skilled sequences and intelligent programming. You have to be able to like be well versed in holding space for a group of people to have a certain experience in your yoga or your fitness. And out of the gate, I just see like new teachers trying to do too much. They're trying to like take on the world before they've actually been able to digest like what is teaching a good class, or teaching outside of their actual experience. And that's something that I did for a while. I was like, oh, I can totally teach that skill. Yeah, I don't have that skill, so there's no reason for me to be teaching it because it's not embodied yet. But besides that, like as a whole, I just noticed from working with many other yoga teachers, I love to collaborate. I love to like be in partnership. I've noticed a real lack of professionalism, and I'll define that as like your ability as a teacher to step outside of your spiritual personality and mindset as like a, you know, leader of these deep wisdoms, and your ability to like actually show up in a business sense, like in a professional sense. Every day you need to like answer your emails and be proactive and show up like polished and pure and clear and like present yourself well. Like I think I just see a lot of teachers who don't take that part of their job as seriously because we focus a lot on the
playlist.
The playlists and what we offer, and you know, the spiritual side of things, or like the actual art of what we do, and that's important. But if you are going to make it in this modern day and age, whether you're part-time teaching or full-time teaching, or you're running multi-figure businesses, you've got to show up with a certain air of professionalism. And that just means that you care, that you have like a nice answering voicemail, and that you get back to people timely, and that you keep a calendar, and that you're, you know, you've crossed your T's and you've dotted your I's, or you're doing it at least the opposite way, or doing something. Like, you know, at least you're dotting something or crossing something. But more than not, I see people just kind of like living off the cuff as teachers, like taking whatever gigs they get, or kind of like showing up half-ass because they're talented. But I think what has set me apart, and I will try to embody this not as humbly, is I show up, man. I'm like really on point. I'm really dedicated to as good of a zipper as I can.
I'm not dirty.
Really engaged with I'm not a dirty hippie. Yeah, I want to like, you know, all coaches and yoga teachers are these like dirty hippies. Yeah, showing up really like professionally is something that sets people apart.
There's something interesting. Britta, can you say that?
Yeah, I'm gonna edit this because your whole last sentence was garbled. So back, I think it's your Wi-Fi that's doing something.
Okay.
I think your Wi-Fi is getting a little weird. It's been a little garbly, but it's been working. But that whole last sentence was like, who knows what we just said.
Okay. Well, I was rambling anyways, so.
I thought it was good. It was good ramble.
But do you have a question I could lead into?
Yeah.
Okay. What about, Britta, do you find that it's a must that yoga teachers should meditate, and why aren't yoga teachers meditating?
Is it a must? I'm going to say like it depends, which is it might sound like a wishy-washy answer, but if meditation isn't something that you as a teacher are interested in, or you don't understand or even acknowledge the benefit of it, then that's coming at it from a very disauthentic place if you're going to be trying to offer that. So why practice something that you're not going to share, or why share something that you're not going to practice? I don't think just because you're a yoga teacher means that you have to be a meditator. I think if you're truly teaching and practicing the lifestyle and the principles and kind of the overarching philosophies of yoga, you can't escape from meditating.
Agree.
Yeah.
There's certainly yoga teachers that don't embody those things, that just teach some off fancy, cool, way too intense physical postures and other things. But again, it's really dependent on the person. Like if you're a yoga teacher and you're committed to helping people have a deeper experience of themselves as individuals and collectively, then meditation is going to find its way into your life and into your practice and then into your teaching, no matter what. That's like kind of a given truth.
It's that integration, the integration will find you.
Dun, dun, dun.
I won't be a yoga teacher for very long.
Oh man. All right. I think we've got so much gold here, but I need to know, because Britta, I know you love to write and I know you love to read. So you got to take us to the book club.
Book club.
Book club, what's on your shelf?
We have a new little jingle for the book club.
Our jingle daily, if you'd like.
We love it.
My book club recommendation, or what I'm really digging my teeth into right now, is an oldie but a goodie. It's called Eastern Body, Western Mind by Anodea Judith, and I know I'm probably butchering her first name. This is like a really, really well-known book. She's an amazing, like well-known writer in yoga, psychology, science communities, and it really merges. So the premise of the book is breaking down the chakra system. And the chakra system, if you don't know what chakras are, is basically like the energetic system that how we move through the spectrum of human experience, from the very gross physical form to the very subtle non-physical form in our human experience. Man, it's just a gold mine. Like I can only read a page at a time because it's so deep and so good, and I want to feel it and embody it and contemplate it and pontificate it and all over types of Asians.
And we'll definitely share that in our show notes. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Eastern Body, Western Mind. So make sure you guys check this out. I feel like it's definitely one of those little waypoints, signs from the universe for me, because I've heard about this book and heard it recommended by so many trusted friends, and I still haven't read it. So it's time for me to read it. So I'll definitely have to check that out. Well, thank you so much for your time, Britta. It's been so delightful connecting with you. For those yoga and movement professionals who do desire to go further with their teaching and they want to know more about how they can study with you, where they can connect with you on Instagram, what is the preferred handle? Britta Rael?
Yeah, Britta Rael, Instagram, Facebook, brittarael.com. My website has a lot of information about the mentorship program, as well as upcoming events and other like offerings that I have. I do have a newsletter too, which I am really proud of. It's one of the things that I'm fiercely committed to every month, offering just some resources about yoga and lifestyle and a little bit about me every month. So feel free to sign up for that. And thank you girls so much for
Britta.
I really am honored to be on your show.
Well, it was a joy having you guys. Go follow Britta, go connect with her website, get on her newsletter, and while you're at it, go hit up her SoundCloud if you want some tunes that'll soothe your soul. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us on today's show. And you guys don't forget to check back next week. You know, we're always dropping them gems weekly so you can thrive daily. That's it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today on another episode of Rise to Thrive podcast. We are so stoked that you're here. If you loved today's episode, if it helped you, please share it with a friend, snap a screenshot, tag us on stories at Rise to Thrive podcast, or head to iTunes or Spotify and leave us an honest review. We love you guys. We appreciate you. And until next time, keep rising, keep thriving. See you next time.